Are you ready to rumble?
Are you ready to peek? Because that's what you just did.
Are you ready to peek?
Strangely, you didn't peek then. That's so strange.
Yeah.
How did you? Which way did you yell then? Was it
No, I condensed my voice magically.
impressive?
Most impressive.
Out the window, we are being watched by a dog
Yes. Very sleepily.
sitting in the sun on a bench.
The problem is when you start
Very
doing a voice, it's hard to stop doing a voice.
Sleepy little dog. He's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I love him.
He is amazing.
He is my dog.
He is your dog.
You should probably introduce us.
the podcast?
Yeah.
Maybe I should do that. Hi guys, it's Scotty.
What's up?
And it's that guy who's...
Hi, Scotty.
Hi. How you doing, Jordan?
I'm pretty good.
You glad to be doing a film roast podcast?
Yes, I'm glad to have a day off. I'm glad to be here instead of at work.
Are you glad that the cinemas are open here in Australia?
Yeah, they are. They only recently opened up this past week.
Yes.
It's been 2 days open, and we went to see a film.
We did finally go once more to see a film in the cinema.
We did, and it was fantastic.
It was. First of all, we weren't being lazy the last couple of weeks.
No.
On the contrary, we're being very, very not lazy.
Yeah, so we've been busy making the next episode of Eat and Swag.
Yes.
Very busy making the next episode of Eat and Swag. There's been a lot of issues, technical issues, but I fixed them.
Yes.
And the podcast has never sounded better.
Oh, no, it has never
So-
sounded better. New XLR cables tend to help.
Yeah, new XLR cables, and also a proper, fully updated driver for the equipment that I'm using.
Yeah.
Also helps.
Turns out when you have the programming that fits the machinery, it does tend to go smoother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really good. I this recently came up on my feed actually.
Okay.
There's a new movie that just came out straight to DVD.
Yep.
It's a horror comedy
Ooh.
called Killer Sofa.
Killer Sofa.
The tagline, actually no, I'm gonna let you guess that, but I'm gonna give you the little blurb about it. A killer reclining chair becomes enchanted by a girl and starts committing crimes of passion.
Crimes of passion.
How does a reclining chair commit crimes of passion? When Francesca discovers that the evil presence in the recliner is trying to connect with her, she prepares herself for a life and death battle against the evil recliner.
It almost sounds like a porno.
It does a little bit. Crimes of passion really threw me.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think?
Is the tagline, "It wants to munch on couch potatoes"?
No.
Okay.
Way off.
Way off.
Yeah, you could not be further from it.
Okay. Comfort to Die.
Wow,
In?
you're not doing great at this, Scotty.
Okay. What is it?
Don't sit on the furniture.
Wow. Well, that's lame. Mine were
yeah,
bad. Mine were bad, but that's terrible.
it is. It's terrible. It's could have just said don't put your feet on the furniture.
Yeah.
Which is what most people say.
Uh-huh.
Nobody says don't sit on the furniture. That's not even a thing.
No.
That's a terrible tagline. But yeah,
It's
so
like
we should have seen that instead.
No, I'm glad what we saw.
Mm.
Also, world situation is much. I mean, here in Australia, it's gone a bit worse, but in Victoria, the state of Victoria, which we're not in, it got worse. But it's not too bad overall.
Yeah.
Just
So
world
Victorians
status.
are being quarantined again.
Yeah, an area quarantine, so they're not allowed
Yeah.
to leave.
Yeah.
Melburnians are not allowed to leave Victoria.
Mm. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
I mean, they still did.
Which is it's interesting because they've recently had a jump of cases, and people are blaming the demonstrations that were happening in Melbourne,
Yeah,
which could be a part of it. But I mean, they had demonstrations in Sydney
as well.
and in Brisbane and in WA, and none of these other places, have seen a massive jump.
What I actually heard was because my family lives in Victoria.
Yes,
not in
they
Melbourne.
do.
I told and asked about that, and he said, actually, no, they know where the cases started and actually had nothing to do with any of the protests.
Yeah. So people who are prolificating, is that the right word?
Yeah, prolificating works.
The lie,
Espousing.
espousing the untruth that it's all because of the protests. You're wrong. Stop saying it.
It was true that protests can be a breeding ground for such things, but it wasn't the case in this instance.
From what I heard, because I have a couple of friends who went down to the Sydney protests to lend their, not just their support,
I was
but
tempted
also
to, but I was
their,
working.
their point of view
Uh-huh.
on it. And they said that a lot of the protests were held with social distancing rules that they did themselves.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they also got not my friends, but at the end of the day, they got pepper sprayed by cops.
It was at Sydney Central Station.
Yeah.
It
Ridiculous.
So technically, it wasn't actually at the protest. It was after the protest.
Yeah,
it was kind of weird.
So strange, so strange. But yeah, that's been our kind of little, I guess, situation here in Australia.
Our protests have been nothing compared to the ones in the States, obviously.
Yes.
And we are using the word protests because we have protests. We don't have riots. We have protests.
Yet. Although, to be fair, I think Australia is overdue for a riot.
I predict a riot.
Not that I'm saying I want a riot. I'm just saying, like, it's been a while since we've had a big riot.
We could do with a riot. It's on the books.
And given that this is a country that was colonized by criminals, we should be having a riot any day now.
Run! I've become a criminal.
That was a great quote. Sorry, I had a mouthful of water.
Yes,
and I just spilt it all over me.
Excellent.
By Hugh Laurie in David Copperfield. The what is it called again? The
life of, is it just the life of David Copperfield?
Well, maybe you should have looked it up before you
It's
said
David
anything.
Copperfield.
Scotty, this is all your fault.
I know.
It's the true story, the true
the life story of David Copperfield.
I don't know. Look it up. We're prepared.
The title of the movie is The Personal History.
Oh wow,
of David Copperfield.
That's terrible.
And this is a weird movie because it's got 6.3 on IMDb, but it's got 94% on Rotten Tomatoes and 80% on Metacritic.
Yeah, because I wonder what the user reviews are on Metacritic actually, because there have been the past couple of months there has been a huge amount of what we call review bombing.
Yeah.
And that basically means a bunch of people online don't like something so much that they will go to an aggregator site and give as many negative reviews as they possibly can.
Yeah, to drag it down.
To drag it down, which is, it's really childish and it's really small and pathetic way to express your displeasure. And most of this displeasure tend to come from a very aggravated, right-leaning perspective of things.
The trolls.
Just like, well, I'm not saying that it's only limited to them.
No,
we do have Twitter cancel culture, which basically people on Twitter.
It's the extreme sides of the political spectrum usually.
Yeah. The people
just
don't do it. It's so stupid.
The outspoken minorities who, or at least they think they're outspoken and they think they're minorities.
Yeah.
They are outspoken.
So one of the most recent ones was a video game sequel that came out called The Last of Us 2.
Big game.
And I'm not going to say anything about any spoilers or anything.
Yeah.
But within an hour of the game's official release date, user reviews flocked to the site in the negatives. If you know anything about video games, you can't play an entire video game in less than an hour. So where are these negative reviews coming from? From people who haven't played the game and who are making assumptions and dislike things that they've heard. And jumping to conclusions without actually. There was a person on Twitter that I saw who, because I follow Neil Druckmann, who is the director of The Last of Us, the first one, and The Last of Us 2, on Twitter, and he just posted that he was very proud of the team that he was working with in creating the game, and some troll, just went on and just started trying to get under his skin, and he ignored it. Neil Druckmann ignored it, but other people didn't. And reading through some of those replies, they asked him, "So have you played the game? Like, it's only been a couple of hours since release." And he said, "No, but I've watched a playthrough with no audio, so I know what I'm talking about." And that is the mindset.
It sounds like that guy is a troll, like a genuine troll.
Yeah, you'd hope that was the case.
Yeah, you kind of hope he's just poking the bear, as it were.
But that's kind of the mindset where a lot of people, and similar things
I
happen.
will say this though: I have heard people who have played the game that will
Mm.
give it negative reviews.
Yeah, and that's fair. There are some, and there's people that didn't like the first game either,
Yeah, that's fine.
and that's fine.
The problem here isn't that.
No, the problem here isn't, and I've played through roughly half of the game
Uh-huh.
so far, and it does have its problems. It's not a perfect video game, but the problems that these trolls have with the game
Aren't the
are
real
not
problems.
the problems with the actual game.
Yep.
And so that kind of it happened with The Last Jedi.
Mhm.
The problems that a lot of those trolls had with The Last Jedi weren't the problems that the film actually had.
Yeah.
And the worst part about this is because so many negative voices speak out against superfluous and non-meaningful things about these media entities.
Yep.
It detracts from these people actually making the next film better or making the next
Yeah, no,
game
you don't
better.
want people to complain about the wrong things.
Yeah, you want to you want to be realistic about what you're complaining about.
So let's go into more positive news. The cinema's open again. How excited were you for the cinemas opening again?
I wasn't sure how to feel because there's just not a lot to watch.
Yeah, I was sort of having the same opinions. Like what all the movies we were looking forward to before everything shut down, like Tenet and Wonder Woman, and I'm about to sneeze.
He sneezed on me.
Yes.
He sneezed on me.
It was intentional.
Makes sense.
Yeah, no. The movies that were coming out that we were looking forward to have all been pushed back, and they've been pushed back further and further.
And they're still being pushed back.
So there wasn't much options in terms of stuff we hadn't seen yet.
No.
But some of the movies that we hadn't seen or had not been able to watch it were coming out, and we managed to see one of them, which was, of course, The Personal History of David Copperfield.
Yeah, which we fumbled our way to the title of earlier.
Yes.
Do you have a cast list anywhere on you?
I mean,
Sucker.
it'd be fun to try and do off the top of head. The lead
Get you.
is played by Dev Patel.
Fantastic actor who I've always kind of been worried that he wouldn't continuously be able to get work because Hollywood has this nasty tendency of throwing a lot of people of color who aren't, and it sounds bad, but who aren't African American to the wayside.
Yes.
And a lot of that is kind of their way of black tokenism. They will hire a lot of African Americans for that reason instead of actually giving them stories.
Or he would become the niche Indian actor in a film.
Yeah.
And I think that even before this movie, Dev Patel had actually gone out of his way not to do that.
Exactly.
So there was the movie he made with Nicole Kidman, the Australian one,
Lion,
and then he was in the Wes Anderson movie. The Hotel. What's it called?
No, he's not in that.
Not The Hotel?
No.
Which one am I thinking of?
Oh, you're a racist.
Oh, is it someone else?
That is someone else.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Oh, you're part of the problem.
I'm part of the problem. Okay. What else is... I can't remember now.
Oh, that's fantastic. He was in the Danny Boyle film, Slumdog Millionaire.
Yes.
That was one of the big ones that he got.
Yeah,
but before that, he was also in Skins.
Yes, he was
And
in Skins.
he had a fantastic start to his career with that. And he was also in The Newsroom, which was amazing.
He was in the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel.
That's not the same film. That's not Wes Anderson.
Oh, it's not Wes Anderson?
No.
Oh, it's John Madden. Okay.
Yeah, wow. That's bad.
Okay. You know what? I'll probably just put those two movies together in my head in the background. That's probably what happened.
Oh, that's good. That's funny.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. He is the second actor of Indian descent to receive an Oscar nomination.
Who was the first?
I don't know, but the fact that he's only the second still says a lot, doesn't it?
It does. It really does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a lot of tokenism that goes on in Hollywood. There's also a lot of just flat out ignorance that happen. I think I did speak to this on the last podcast, but Selma wasn't nominated for an Academy Award because the actors and the director were wearing Black Lives Matter T-shirts to promote more understanding within the community.
Yep.
And the Academy said, no, we are not allowing you to run for Best Picture because of this.
Yep.
Just disappointing. Very disappointing. But in other good news, the Academy has put on and made it their mission to increase the amount of Academy members that are of different ethnicities and who are women. And they have increased it, I think, by 30%. I'm not sure about that number. I read recently
It
that
might be their aim to hit 30%.
yeah. But they're achieving it, so that's nice.
They've
It
actually got
sucks that it's taken a lot of all of what's happening in the world to make them do this. Because honestly, and this is my biggest problem with like the whole all lives matter movement.
Yeah.
Is that if all lives
They
mattered,
missed the point.
hold on, if all lives mattered, if you believe that all lives matter, then all of this should have been done before George Floyd died, before all
Well, we
these
had the
people
opportunity even after Ferguson to go through this
yeah,
process, and we didn't back then.
and nobody did, and it's very disappointing. But I'm happy to see this moving forward. But I'm also afraid that in the next couple of months, it's going to be pushed to the wayside again, and we're going to go through a lull.
Well, with the diversity of the personal history of David Copperfield, it doesn't just stop at Dev Patel.
No.
It also includes Rosalind Elazar as Agnes Wickfield, and Benedict Wong, who is a legend, as Mr. Wickfield. I think
He's so good.
he is. I think
He's one of my favorite. Actually, all the cast is my favorite in this movie.
I think as sort of Doctor Strange's sidekick, he already proved like he's got comedy chops. And I think in this, he's got natural character comedy chops, where he's able to play a character, and I think Hugh Laurie does it as well in this movie.
Yeah.
There are moments where a character, in being that character, is just naturally funny, and it's so funny.
Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. I loved watching all of these actors interact with each other. There was this nice. It was very theatrical. Theatrical. So when you're looking at this film, there is a way that they shoot it where there's a lot more wides.
Yes.
And it allows you to see more than one actor's reaction to what's happening in the scene. So, for instance, Capaldi suddenly appears in the middle of the film in a place he's not supposed to be, and Dev Patel is sitting down, and there's a part where Capaldi is espousing some fact in quotation marks, and he's about to play his accordion. And Dev Patel just drops his chalkboard on the table in frustration. But you wouldn't be able to get that if it was done in a two-shot. No. You'd only be able to really
if it isn't one
fully see those beats happen if it was a wide.
I think, first of all, this obviously, for those who don't know, this is an adaptation of a Dickens book. And it's written in a very particular way that probably makes it very hard to adapt to anything.
Yes. So it's bookended. It's bookended by a stage, I guess, reading of from Dev Patel on David Copperfield. In character as David Copperfield, and we see it through that lens mostly throughout the whole film. A lot of transitions will happen with a curtain being taken down or put up with a different backdrop. And you will see like a projector being used sometimes when a character is talking about a past event.
Yeah, you'll see things happening in the background at the same time as they're happening in the forefront, like as if there's a projector in the background. Yeah.
Well, there is a projector in the background. Yes. That's what they use to
do it.
But
it doesn't feel out of place. It's not jarring at all. No. And there's a couple of moments when he's I guess just montaging, but. And the screen will flick into different directions, but that's to help show exactly the way he's thinking about things.
Yeah. And it's really, I felt it was, going back to the cast, I felt it was entirely appropriate, and I loved how none of these cast members' ethnicities matched up with anything.
No.
But that's not the point. The point is their character, what's on the inside, who they are as characters on screen really comes through.
Yeah, their portrayal overlaps their own ethnicity, where it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what skin color they are.
It doesn't. And that's really it's the right way to be progressive, I think, with this with art forms and especially cinema. Because so many people nowadays are afraid that their favorite character is going to get gender bent or racially changed to.
Well, the problem is when it's done for the sake of it. I find most of the times, like
when it's done for the sake of marketing, when they're trying to make money instead of make art, that's where I draw the line on anything.
Like I was tried to watch a new show on Netflix, and I'm not going to say which show it was.
Oh, but I want to talk about it.
But this show had there was an obvious character that was gay, and it was almost for the sake of him just being gay. I was like, okay, have you got more? There were very few. There was another character as well who was also gay, but he was more interesting. But he had this character, and then he killed that character off straight away. So
What?
Anyway, I'm not going to talk about the show. It wasn't worth watching. It's not worth. I'm not going to tell you.
Is it a new show or an old show?
I think it's newish.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, it's not worth the point. The point was the character was there was no character there.
Yeah.
And the fact that they made him gay did not add to the character; it detracted because of that.
Yeah. There's a fantastic portrayal of a gay character on Duty Shame, which is also on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And that show, all of its characters are fantastic. But there are moments where they could have made it about marketing. They could have made a character's sexuality about how to pull in gay viewership, or make I'm not going to say. I was going to say political statement.
Yeah,
but like that's
everything's
what I mean.
a political statement.
Everything is a political statement. But they chose not to for the sake of the story, because the story, at the end of the day, should be strong enough to stand on its own 2 feet.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that is also being used as a detraction to try and force people to not like or like something.
Yeah, no. A good example, I think, of a gay character that works is one of the leads in the old American cop show Southland. One of the cops is gay in that, and it actually that adds to the character and it makes the character more interesting. And it doesn't. It makes there's a plot points there that are interesting, and it all adds to the story.
Southland is still it's a fantastic show. It's a great show.
In fact, maybe it's even better in
and
hindsight.
a bad display of this. Personally, I think. Have you seen the second series? Not the season. The second series of Avatar, The Legend of Korra.
Oh, no. I've watched maybe 2 episodes.
Yeah. So it started off, and here's the actual thing of it. It started off as just a one season arc. So it was only supposed to be for 10, 12 episodes. That's it. Okay. They had no plans to make any more. They had a nice story arc with her and the villain and where she was headed and all this other stuff. And it finished the series quite well. Mm-hmm. Then Nickelodeon told them, no, you're making more. And the fans told them, which is worse, the fans told them, no, you're making more. Yeah. And so they made more. And throughout the course of the rest of the series, which is, I think, three more seasons on top of that, they made the main character basically become a lesbian as the show went through. And there's nothing wrong with a character who is a lesbian. No. But the problem is, not only did they do it for marketing, because they did. Yeah. They did it to please the fans, which means that they had no story that they wanted to tell themselves.
This was just a plot point. So it's insulting to real lesbians, because if you make a character out of nowhere a lesbian, then there's no reason for it.
No, there is no reason. We don't see, we don't empathetically feel what she's going through as a person, because she is who she is. Gets chopped and changed at the whim of a media corporation. Yeah. That's not a character, that's a marketing tool.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is wrong. That in any sense of that word, that is wrong. And I don't think, and unfortunately it is supported by a lot of people in the LGBTQI community, and I don't think they should be supporting it. I think there are other better characters and other better companies and studios out there that champion better view, actual characters with actual stories.
Yeah. Now, speaking of actual characters and actual stories, I think one thing that the personal history of David Copperfield gets off right at the back is that somehow it manages to very quickly create very real characters that you can both sympathize with and hate in equal measure.
Yeah.
There are likable and dislikable characters in this movie. There's only, I'd say, one character that is purely dislikable.
Yeah, from the get-go.
And
it's Ben Whishaw.
It's Ben Wishaw's character. Even who
did a fantastic job.
He was, yes. The character is described as a vulture, and he was the ultimate vulture in this movie.
the blocking of all of these scenes where he's in, he's literally hunched over and he tries to get as close to people as he can physically and also emotionally, which is his character arc. He feeds off of other people. And at first you kind of feel a little bit sorry for him. But even at the same time, I was like, no, he's a piece of shit. He's just trying to claw his way to
It was
whatever.
his circumstances that created the sympathy. And then very quickly, when that's the scene with Copperfield in his home, is like, he's still a bit of sympathy there, but like, oh no, he's digging his claws. He wants and then the later on when they meet at the theater, at that point you're like, this guy was always and will always be bad news.
Yep. And not because of his social class or where he came from, but because he's just a bad person.
Yeah. I mean, the other characters that are bad characters as an antagonist in this movie are his stepfather and her sister. His sister. Wow.
His sister.
His sister. Yeah. Get the.
He looked familiar, and I don't know where he came from.
Let's see if I can find his.
Because he kind of looks like a beefier version of Monty Python. Faulty Towers.
Darren Boyd. He was in Dark and Gently.
Don't know what that is.
That was a British show based on a what's his name? Douglas Adams. He's in Killing Eve still. He was in Spy. He's done a bit parts basically in British TV.
So this is kind of almost his big break kind of thing.
You might have seen him in the background of things before.
Well, he was terrifying.
Yes,
he was terrifying.
He's got good stage presence. Is it that he's got that strong jaw?
He's got high cheekbones, creepy motherfucker.
Yeah.
And Gwendolyn Christie in this as well is fantastic. She's just monstrously tall.
Yeah, she's monstrous.
And I mean that as a compliment. I don't mean that as a bad thing.
She's got great stage presence. Is the term where she can do next to nothing. And
there's a scene where Dev Patel threatens her with a bottle.
Yeah.
And all of the other characters kind of move back, but she just stands there and stares at him, and it's very menacing.
One thing to note is like it's so well directed, this movie, because the first scene you meet the stepfather, he plucks a flower, and it's like the way it's done, it's so well shot, and it tells so much about the character without saying anything.
But also we see the reactions of the other characters when he does this, and they're offended by it.
Yeah. And he doesn't care. He's lording it up.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit.
It's such a small moment. It tells you so much. And then when Gwendolyn Christie's character is introduced, she talks to him, but she doesn't. There's no direct conversation.
She talks about him, not to him.
Yeah.
And she makes that very clear when he tries to introduce himself, the child version of David Copperfield.
But somehow this all becomes really funny. There's a later scene where at the start, David Copperfield's trying to be taught. And he screws up. But there's this back and forth between him, David Copperfield's mum, and her, which in hindsight is really funny because they're not talking directly to each other; they're all talking through each other.
That happens quite often in this film. It's very well written, and it's very well. There are actually still moments where I was like, "Oh, the pacing of this could have been better."
Yeah,
because it does have pacing issues occasionally.
Yes.
There are some scenes where, like when there is a transition of David Copperfield moving from one place to another at the very beginning of the film, where he is an adult and he's finally moving out to do his own thing after he quits his job.
I think this is some of the adaptation coming in, where there's so much of this to not adapt.
This change needs to happen, and we need to get through it.
Yes, so it's like to not compromise the story, we have to accept the fact that we're going to have to have pacing issues near the start and through this. But at the same time, the performances and the actual story carry you through the pacing issues at the start. So and it's so well written, which helps too.
Yeah, and it's well directed. What's the name of the director again?
Armando Iannucci, who you may know from doing The Death of Stalin.
Yeah,
and
so he's that's the kind of film that he does. Death of Stalin was another one which was quite comedically dark, but it was more. It's weird because it leans more on the dramatic side of things than it does on either the dark or the comedy, which is
it's more. I actually think when it comes to comedy as well, it's almost more slapstick. Whereas, I mean, this is slapstick, but a lot of the it's like character-driven comedy.
It's dialogue-driven comedy as well. I feel, like Mules.
Yes,
There's a running gag where his aunt is
who's played by Tilda Swinton.
fantastic casting again.
Yeah, all the casting's great in this.
It's honestly a British all-star cast of
Yeah.
just some of the best actors that have ever graced the silver screen.
Yeah.
And Hugh Laurie in this is just he's fantastic.
Actually, Hugh Laurie, who's playing Dick. What's his name of the character?
Mr. Dick.
It's just Mr. Dick. Yeah, it's just Mr. Dick. And
He's his aunt's cousin,
yes,
which is still quite confusing.
and also I want to mention Anurin Bernard, who plays his good friend Steerforth. They're both.
Oh, what a piece of shit! I hated him as
Really?
a character from the very get-go. Like I did feel for him, but at the same time, I was like, straight away as soon as they met, it's like, oh, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, I know.
He is scum.
Yeah,
I feel it
but
in
you
my
see
bones.
where that's coming from so quickly as
Yeah.
well. And I think I want to bring these two characters up because I don't think I've seen in cinema in recent years a good a depiction of mental illness as they are portrayed through these two people.
I mean, I disagree, but it is a good depiction.
Okay, what can you think is better? But
No, well, I don't think it's the best one.
No.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think there are many other fantastic examples of different kinds of mental illness out there. But yeah, it is fantastic. It's really good. And also the archaic way in which they don't deal with his mental illness.
Either of them.
None of them. None of the characters deal with it. His mother doesn't deal with it at all.
No.
And yeah, it's a sadly realized true depiction of it.
Yeah, I think what's fantastic about Mr. Dick, though, is the fact that he has this genuine connection with David straight away, where they're and David takes to helping fix him by coming at him in his own delusions.
Yeah. And helping him work through them instead of telling him he's silly and stupid, which is what his stepfather did when we kind of first see their big interaction after his mum is married.
Yep.
His stepfather. His stepdad's a piece of shit, and he tells him, like, he's drawing on the floor, and
black is black and white is white is basically what he's saying.
Yeah, basically, and tells him, don't do it ever again.
Yep.
Don't be imaginative. Don't think outside the box. I felt this film was very personal for me. For many reasons. But the main one is like being forced to work in a place that you don't feel you fit, that you don't feel you belong, that you feel is like, I don't want to say beneath you, but it is in that sense. Like, you're not made for this. You're made to be doing something else. You don't fit here. Your brain doesn't work here. Your body doesn't work here. Just go do something else. And he says there's a when he confronts this place and he smashes all these bottles and he says, I deserve more than this. And his boss threatens him with half day's pay, and he said half of nothing is still nothing. And like, not to sound ungrateful, because I'm not ungrateful for the job that I have, but I do feel like that, where it's kind of like, I'm making money, yes, I'm working here, but what am I doing it for? Is it helping me in any way aside from...
It's funny when people expect you to be grateful for things where it's like, why should I be grateful for this?
Am I grateful for living? Like,
yeah, it's like,
should I be grateful for a basic minimum wage?
Should I be grateful for my own hard work?
Yeah,
that's the real question that people are asking.
Should I be grateful for me putting in the hard yards and doing this?
You're not the one who should be grateful. You should be the one who's being thanked. So.
Exactly. Yeah, you're the one that's putting in the hard work. They should be grateful for you, not the other way around.
And there's a nice scene which I think there's more of it in the book, where even though he's forced into this job, he makes the best of his circumstance. And I think that's sort of the thing with David Copperfield throughout his arc, and he has quite the arc where he gets the shit dumped on him quite a lot, and he finds a way through his own imagination and through his own, he's got very good interpersonal skills where he can...
His skill, but not just that, it's the people he ends up surrounding himself with. Because there is a moment where his house is overflowing with people that he's trying to take care of because he's a good person. And he's had to put off his passion, which is writing. And he said, like, they ask him, why don't you write? Why don't you write? And he said, there's no room to even move my elbows. I can't do anything here. But then his new family basically unfurl this room in the back that they have set up specifically for him to write.
Yep.
And that's what he does. He
I think
sits down and he
What's
writes.
amazing is that he somehow surrounds himself with the people who are most genuine towards him.
Yeah.
People who've shown, despite everything else, genuine compassion towards him. They're a motley crew.
Yeah.
Who are not perfect.
No.
But he creates a family of people he can trust that he knows the relationships with. And they're funny.
They are. And they're fantastic and eclectic and strange. And there are so many, like, in standard filmmaking, there is often an A plot, a B plot, and maybe a C plot.
Yeah.
Rarely is there ever an A, B, C, D, E, and F plot, which this film has. It has a lot of subplots underneath it. There's the subplot with Emily and her running away with his friend, and leaving her betrothed, and the meaning and how that ties in with the rest of the story, and how this character reacts to that character, and how Ben Wishaw's character comes into it and destroys their lives, and it's all kind of, there's a lot of subplots in this, but it doesn't feel like it's overburdened
because it's always tied to David.
Yeah,
he's the linchpin where it's always his story as he moves through it. So
I don't think it would have worked if we didn't have those bookends of him telling the story to the audience. Because this is him going through the chapters of his life up until that point.
You mentioned the word chapters. Initially, a lot of Dickens books were, and a lot of books at the time were released chapter by chapter to a compendium, and they'd have the chapters.
Or a newspaper.
Yeah, it would be a newspaper. They'd be quite thick, but yes.
Yeah.
So they would get this, and they'd get the chapter, and then 2 months later, the next one would come out, and they get the next chapter. And then once the book was finished, then they could buy the novel. But until that point, I mean, I think
so. It's like TV episodes.
Yeah, TV episodes or web novels are doing it now as well, where you can read as the writer will put a chapter up every couple of weeks. So it's a very current way of getting the story.
Episodic.
But it is episodic because of that. Where this is David's arc here, this is David's arc there. We're not going to get one continuous story, and I think this is actually a positive, because what happens is, you see David change in different ways through each of these different plot arcs. He learns to stand. He doesn't learn to stand on his feet. He's forced to, by himself, stand on his own feet to confront his own issues. And that's only by going through multiple of these plot arcs.
Yeah, and also trial and error. He tries so many different ways to get through it. And a lot of the ways that he tries actually hinder his ability to push through a lot of the stuff that he's going through.
Because you can clearly map out, it's like, okay, he's ashamed of his past. Once Dev Patel takes over, because it's played by a couple of younger actors at the start.
Yeah.
When Dev Patel takes
over.
All
fantastic performances, by the way.
They're all lovable.
And they're good actors.
Yeah.
They're not terrible. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, we've seen some films over the last 8 months with some very bad child actors.
Oh, Dumbo always springs to mind.
Dumbo. I tried to watch the Artemis Fowl movie.
Artemis Fowl.
Oh, that was horrendous.
Yeah, I will
child actor in that.
We might mention that next week.
Woof. Big woof.
That ultimately is part. Actually, there's two big problems with that movie, and actually, that unfortunately is one of them. That actually is one of the biggest problems of that movie, which is really sad.
We're talking about Artemis Fowl, by the way, not David Copperfield.
Not David Copperfield. But back to David Copperfield.
Yes.
So he has this arc where it's like he learns to step on his feet. It's like he's trying to be a gentleman, but he's hiding his past. He's not confronting it. He's not owning his own identity. He's running away from it. And at the same time, it's like, this isn't completely negative. You completely understand where, and then you see him trying to be genuine, trying to breach the classes, as it were. And you also see the downside to that with Ben Wishaw's character. And then you learn to see him caring for the people who actually matter to him, when they're basically forced into his house. But you can see that when Tilda Swinton and Hugh Laurie show up at his house, they look so out of place.
Yeah.
You can tell Dev Patel's exasperated, but at the same time, he kind of wants to hug them, but he's like, he's trapped in that.
Well, he's also dealing with, everything else that's happened.
He's trying to ask a girl to marry him who shouldn't be. It's such a real relationship.
It's so bad. It's a bad. It's a real terrible relationship. It's not a good relationship.
I've seen it so many times.
Oh yeah, we've seen it so many times, Scotty.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know who you are.
Yeah, they probably do. But the thing is, actually, one of my favorite moments in this film is when he's writing and she's there, and her performance, Like she's playing that character's stupid, like really stupid.
Well, that actress plays two characters.
Yeah.
She actually plays his mother in the first like 15 minutes of the movie. And there's a nice little callback there.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's a lot of psychological studies that say that we marry the person who most resembles our father / our mother.
Yeah.
And she physically does. And there's a great montage scene of David walking around London
it's
and
hilarious.
seeing her hair and her face everywhere
You see
on different people.
St. Paul's Cathedral.
On St. Paul's Cathedral.
I love the coachman. The coachman with her hair is so funny.
Yeah, and it's great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. But then we realize that he's only actually looking at her in a physical sense. He's not actually in love with the person that she is.
Yeah.
And him grappling with that and trying to ignore that and push past that. There's an interesting, and I think this really nails the theme of this movie of David Copperfield. It's the theme of identity.
Yes.
It is who am I, and also what labels do people see me as? We have Ben Wishaw's character who thinks he's a snotty, highfalutin, princeling piece of shit, and he endeavors to take advantage of him as much as he can.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, who hasn't thought of that when they see a rich person?
Yeah.
Or someone who's dressed nicely?
You feel like
or someone who goes to a grammar school?
He's that perfect. The vulture is the perfect word where he wants to just take everything that person is and absorb it into himself.
Exactly. You also have his rich friends from the school that he goes to who think that he is someone else, and he wants to keep that illusion up. He wants them to believe that he's rich. He wants them to believe that he's from high upper class, and he's not. And then he has the people back home who know who he is, and there are times where he's trying to ignore them and push them aside almost until he goes, no, this is who I am, and he brings them into his home. And you have, all of these different labels being thrown at him, different names that people like Daisy, Dodie, all of these things that all of these other people are trying to give him or force him.
What is it? Is it Truddlewood? What's the ant's name that she? God, it's so horrible.
Yeah, the ant is calling him by her name, as some form of ownership over him. His new wife is calling him Dodie for whatever reason, and his friends call him Daisy for whatever reason. All of these people call him different names because they want him to fit inside a mold that they're making for him, but it's never a mold that will actually fit him. And so every time they try and put him there, he gets uncomfortable and he breaks out.
Yep.
And not just him, but the woman he tries to marry is also being put into a box by him.
Yes.
To say, I think you are going to be this person for me. But she isn't. She's not right.
And the funny
for
thing
him.
is, though, you can easily see it's like she likes the box that she's being put into.
Yeah.
And it's not until later on, and that has the self-realization when he's writing and she's next to him.
It's a very great, awkward scene.
It is. Her performance is like she wants to be written out of the story because she realizes she doesn't fit. That moment of self-realization it's haunting because you realize she's not just giving up him, she's giving up his idea of her as well.
Yeah. And it's really nice.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
It's sad, but it's like there's this catharsis it's just like, this is meant to be. You can't force this.
And that's great because every time that they've tried to force it, it leads down a bad path.
Yeah.
Every single time. And the whole thing, and that's something that I came away from it, being someone who feels like I've personally forced myself into, a mold that I think I should be for other people.
I know.
And going, you know what? No, I can't do this anymore. Because all it's going to be is making me feel depressed, making me angry, and making me upset.
Yeah.
And we can't ignore who we really are underneath. And I think if we try, it's just going to make things worse.
I think you end up ripping yourself apart, which I think is sort of the point with his friend's character as well, where he comes from a certain point of view, and I feel like he knew that point of view is wrong, and then that he had hatred towards himself. I think that the key with that character is he hates himself.
Yeah.
And
it kind of reminded me of, what's his name from Dead Poets Society?
Oh, yeah. I always remember as Wilson from Dr. House.
Yeah. From House. Yeah, Wilson from House.
Yeah.
Similar thing. He figures out who he is and where he's come from, and that he can't be who he really wants to be, and so he ends up killing himself. That film, man, still gets me.
It's great.
We got shown that by one of the best English teachers we've ever had.
I mean, I did it in English as well. It's just a good movie to do it in English.
But the strange thing is, the English teacher that showed it to us, he basically became our teacher from that film. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, he was almost identical to that. He wanted us to be free thinkers. He wanted us to be able to figure things out ourselves, and he was willing to equip us with the ability to do that. Which makes it even all the more sadder when he got fired by the school in almost the same manner. It's it's insane how, you know, art imitates life and life imitates art.
Yeah.
But yeah, this film, I think, impacted me more emotionally than I anticipated. I expected it to be more of a fast-paced comedy, which it was.
Yes.
But the emotional and the tragic beats hit me way harder than I expected.
Often period pieces, I mean, sometimes because of the nature of a period piece, it allows it, because it's removed from current modernity, to hit you with the human aspect more. But with this one especially, especially maybe with the changed actors and with everything else is going on with the movie, the tragedy involved in this movie allows the comedy to be so much funnier.
Yeah.
This is something that I've been thinking a lot recently. It's like, there'll be comedies on, like, I'm not laughing as much as I used to.
Yeah.
And I realize it's because there's no comparison. There's nothing. It's just all funny, hyphenated funny, where it's not. It's like, why is this funny in this circumstance? Most of the comedy in this movie is circumstantial comedy. It's character-based comedy, where the comedy's coming out of the interactions between different people and their circumstances. When Hugh Laurie comes out of a shop saying, "Run, I'm a criminal," it's so funny because of who that character is and the situation he's in.
Yeah, it's great. That actually reminded me of Rick and Morty.
Yes.
A lot of people expected Rick and Morty to be just a run-of-the-mill comedy animated show in the likes of Family Guy or The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Except a little bit more edgier, because they were just like, you know, let's and they attracted a crowd of a lot of that demographic of I'm 14 and this is edgy and this is deep, and you know there's a government conspiracy. Also,
it is written by Harmon, who's always had meta comedy involved.
Yes.
So and I mean,
it's co-written by Harmon.
Yeah, Justin Roiland.
Justin Roiland was the creator.
Are the head writers.
Yeah. But the ending of, you know, that first season, you're waiting for the punchline. You're waiting for the joke to happen, and you realize there is no joke that's happening, and it is as depressing as it seems, and it is as sad as it seems, and it actually kind of hurts a little bit, because you're seeing a character that it would make you laugh in a situation that is actually making you feel kind of sad. Similarly, recently, I finished the 13th season of Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and the last episode of that season is very similar to how Rick and Morty kind of hit you in the face with that emotionality, that really deep cut.
Well, there's actually tragedy in all the characters in Always Sunny, which is why, I mean, it's the title's always been ironic, and that's sort of the running joke of the show.
The whole show is ironic.
Yeah.
It's dripping in bad people doing bad things, but also getting bad results.
Yeah.
So you have this Seinfeld-ish kind of comedy. Seinfeld was the one that kind of really started it off. Obviously,
the
they
final
weren't.
episode.
But a lot of the time in Seinfeld, the characters still got what they wanted.
Yes.
In Always Sunny, never happens.
They never get what they want.
Never get what they want, and that's the best part. I think it's a cathartic comedy. It's not a straight situation comedy. It offers the audience an opportunity to go, oh, good, they got what they deserved, and it was funny the whole way through.
Unfortunately, this is sort of the appeal of reality TV to a certain degree as well.
Like
You see real people doing real bad things and then getting punished for it, usually on a national scale.
And the knowledge that is a real person just makes it even more delicious. And it's kind of it's a bit of a
it's apprehensible. It is. It's very morally corrupt.
It's
also when you realize it's fake.
It's a romantic Colosseum-esque kind
Yeah.
of a way to view.
You
all
want to
this
see
stuff.
you want to see the emperor give the thumbs up and the heads come flying. That's what you want to see.
No, it's thumbs down, isn't it? That
No,
means death.
No. If they don't put the thumbs up, they live.
If
So-
they don't put the thumbs up.
Yeah. So if it's historically changed for cinema reasons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I just remember in Gladiator,
Yeah,
he puts the thumb down. Yeah.
That's historically incorrect. There you go.
Oh, what a surprise.
Yeah.
That film, speaking of Gladiator,
I still like Gladiator.
I don't. The first time I saw it, I noted a couple of weird things that I didn't like about it. I was like, why did you do that? Why is he saying these things? It doesn't make any sense. His arc is this, really?
Mhm.
And then the more I watch it, the more I dislike it. And the more I go, no, it's not a good movie. I can't justify the plot or the arc for that film. It's just not my thing. I understand it when people like it because it is
The
classic.
The action scenes still and battle scenes still work as well. So
Yeah, they're pretty good. But I'm not a huge fan of that movie. Not a huge fan at all.
it also filled a need, which for a certain genre which
yeah.
didn't exist
Yeah.
or disappeared a bit at the time.
Yeah, well, it kind of revived the whole golden age of Hollywood. Epic genre.
Yes.
That's what the genre became. It was an epic,
Epic.
like
With
Cleopatra or
The Last Testament or Ben-Hur or there's a
Ten Commandments.
Spartacus.
Yep.
Those good ones. We kind of need to do Spartacus at some point.
Did you say Ben-Hur?
I did say Ben-Hur.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, of course I said Ben-Hur.
Watched that at the end of last year,
Uh-huh.
and that movie,
Mhm.
insane.
Yes, it is insane.
Insane. Like we got to the halfway point where they say it's time for a break, kind of
Yeah.
thing. The what do they call that? The intermission. And it goes for 15 minutes on the Blu-ray.
Mhm.
So you got a 15-20 minute break on the Blu-ray itself. And when it hit, I was like, "What? No, we're not. What?"
Yes.
Because it didn't feel like it was that long.
Uh-huh.
I felt like we had only been watching for maybe 45 minutes.
It's a
but
really
it was
well-made
2
movie.
hours.
It's a really well-made movie.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That's kind of the problem with all the remakes that have happened since is they've never been as good. And the first Ben-Hur movie, which is actually in the 1910s or 20s, is actually pretty decent as well. It's just, which is kind of the funny when they remade it. It's like, okay, this movie was this good, so we have to make a movie that's at least twice as good.
Yeah.
And they managed it, and then everyone since is like, oh, we'll just modernize it, and it'll be fine. No,
Oh, God, it was bad.
Oh.
Yeah, I was able to see that film, the remake.
Yeah.
Was it 2018?
Yeah, or 17.
I was allowed to go see it early as
Mhm.
part of a press release because I was reviewing films for a website at the time,
Uh-huh.
and I got a free pass to go see it.
Yeah, poor you.
And I went to see it, and we got like little freebies. So we got free popcorn, but also like a little keychain with the film's title and shit on it.
Uh-huh.
It was not a good film.
Mhm.
Oh, it was bad. It was so bad. That was one of the worst experiences reviewing a film. Actually, that was the film that I reviewed that I stopped writing film reviews for. I was like, I've written this one. I'm not doing it again. That was
Okay.
terrible. Don't make me do it again.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this recently. It's like after we watched Bloodshot, it's like, yeah, I can understand why I feel a lot more respect for film critics at this point because the amount of bullshit they have to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had to deal with this as well to a certain degree, but at the same
We
time,
do it for fun.
we do it for fun. We get something out of
and
it.
there is something fun about watching Bloodshot.
Oh yeah.
And all those kinds of films, but they're terrible movies and they're not good. And
Like trying to compare
you can-
Aquaman and
Ugh.
what was that machine one? Mortal Engines.
Mortal Engines. They were both terrible films,
I
but
feel-
on different levels.
Yeah,
man.
it's like we've
different levels.
It's funny. It's like after watching that and that Rodriguez Cameron movie, Alita Battle End, I was like, maybe we gave Mortal Engines harder than we should have. It's like
we really did because that had some hilarious things.
it does.
Like the Terminator ripoff.
Yeah.
And the fact that they literally float away in a balloon
Yeah.
and fall in love right then and there. There's just so many things there that are just like, what?
Yeah.
Why? I love this.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Okay, actually, what is the worst movie we reviewed? Because I know what it is for me, and we haven't mentioned it yet.
Oh, the worst film that we've ever reviewed. I can't.
For me, it's actually Godzilla.
2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
2.
it was so boring.
Yeah.
I was falling asleep.
Not just that, but they reused shots
Yeah.
at 3 different points in the film at 3 different times,
Yeah.
and they didn't bother color grading them either. There was a shot at the beginning where that thing comes out of the volcano, and they're shooting at it from the airplane thing, and then another later in the film at the big penultimate fight scene between all the monsters, they do the same shot again, exactly the same shot.
And the thing is, I don't care because
No,
the thing
they
is,
don't care.
no.
How can you care when they don't care?
you have such a great cast, and it's like, oh, these people are all interesting and stuff, but the words that are coming out of their mouths is like, might as well be Greek for the amount of importance it has towards me.
And the mother betrayed the child.
I'm not saying I'm trying to care while I'm watching the movie, but I just can't.
There was interesting things about the story that could have worked. Like
Yes, there was possibilities
Her
there.
her mother was actually the bad guy all along.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yes.
If you just focused and made it worthwhile, it would have been great. But you didn't, and you fucked us. You fucked us. You fucked us in the ass.
Yeah, it was like
painful.
It was like eating
Wasn't
gruel.
good.
It was eating gruel. That's what that movie was.
Pointless.
They might have tried a whole bunch of ingredients, but it wasn't
Meaningless.
any good for me. I did not enjoy it in the slightest, and I felt I'd rather have slept.
Yeah, I couldn't enjoy that. I enjoyed the first film. I enjoyed
I liked
Godzilla.
I did.
It wasn't perfect, but it was interesting and it was fun, and it had some great scenes. Like
Yes.
when they're falling through the clouds.
Yeah,
and-
that
and-
scene is
Oh
epic.
my god, that's so good.
That
And-
scene though, that's kind of the problem, is where because it was from a human perspective, they tried to do the reverse in the second movie, where it's like, oh, we're gonna show more of the monsters. And I think the one scene that almost worked in the second movie is when they're underwater and Godzilla's coming towards them.
Yeah.
But they milked it too much, and then they ruined it.
Yep.
They had that scene almost worked, but almost isn't good enough.
But it's the same with Jurassic World. Jurassic World did a similar thing. Instead of trying to see it from the human perspective, they try to make it from the dinosaurs' perspective. They're animals. They're dinosaurs. How are we supposed to care about the fate of a dinosaur?
As bad as the Transformer movies are, at least they, for the most part, try to focus on the human element for the most part.
Yeah.
So I'll give them that. I mean, there's lots of problems with them, and you don't need us to tell you that.
Nope. Or maybe you do, because
they're all the same movie.
They
Hint.
are. They all are. Every single one of them. You might as well. But it's just like how they're releasing video games, different versions of video games every fucking year now.
Call of Duty games.
Call of Duty every fucking year. Battlefield every fucking year. It's the same goddamn game. You don't need to release a new one. Just keep the old one and release content for the next 2 years, and then maybe release a new game. We don't need the same fucking thing every year.
Nope.
Just do something different. Just do something different. And it's insane because so many people still buy it, because it's like we collectively have gotten this low threshold for attention.
Yep.
We can't keep our attention on anything anymore.
If they make a new cinema release, are we going to see it in the cinema? Yes, we are. So we can't really talk about that. But yes, it's worth complaining about.
Yes, it is. I mean, to be fair, a lot of my complaining is tongue in cheek. I just
We all play the games anyway. We still pay the money.
I like complaining about things.
Who doesn't? We all like complaining. And there's plenty to complain about. It's 2020. We're halfway through 2020. The year is still going and the world hasn't ended yet.
Even though I feel like it kind of has.
Yeah.
This year's been so shit.
You know what? An old lady asked at work.
This has been a joke.
Don't you remember? There was an old lady, Asian lady, who's pretty quirky, came into work yesterday, and her husband had a coffee, and she can't have a coffee at the moment because she's gone through surgery. And we're talking to her. She's funny though. She's great sense of humor. And I was like, God, can't you wait for it to be normal again? I'm like, what is normal now? And she's like, yeah, good question.
Yeah. What exactly is not? Because I don't want to go back to normal per se. I obviously don't want, this to stay around. I don't want to be in fear of my life from a virus or scared for my friends who have a different skin color who might be shot on sight or something.
Yep.
I don't want any of that. But I don't want it to return to normal where we're pretending a lot of these issues don't exist. I want the world to be a better place. And recently, like I was telling you before, I saw an article about, a couple of 100 elephants just died for no fucking reason over in Africa. And good part is they're running tests on them to see what exactly they died from and whether we should be worried about it.
Yep.
which is fair,
Mhm.
because they also saw elephants before they died just walking around in circles, not knowing where they were.
Brainstem issues.
That's so bad,
Yeah.
and that should be scaring us, but not obviously to the point of just going crazy with
Well,
fear.
yeah.
But we should be frightened to a point where we're willing to do what needs to be done to get better, to help
We need to
the
red
world
flag
get better.
issues quicker. I don't know if you heard about it. There's another flu in China that's
Pigs,
the
pigs.
swine flu.
Another swine flu in development, possibly.
Yeah.
Swine flu too.
But the thing is, I mean, I don't think it will be an issue because we've red flagged it so early.
Yeah.
And that's what we've learned. It's like, okay, when there's issues crop up, we red flag them as soon as possible. We've learned to deal with these situations as quickly and as effectively as possible. But we're still in 2020. This year
has fucked us.
Yeah.
This year, I think it's because we collectively as a human race have pushed things under the carpet for way too long that now there's like a 5-foot mound there that's starting to just leak out.
It's affecting us mentally in ways we don't even realize. And I think that's why I was so happy that we saw
David Copperfield
in the cinema.
Yeah.
Because first of all, it's a fantastic movie, but the fact that we had the cinema experience of this movie, we were laughing out loud in a group of people, and we didn't care because this movie was just it was life. It was life, and it was about suffering and dealing with it on a day-to-day issues and making the good happen. And there's a scene right at the end where he's imagining his younger self, and he's talking to him. It's like, it's gonna be all right, and you're like, thank you. Hopefully, the future me is saying that to me right now.
I teared up a little bit when I saw that.
Me too. It was like, that's beautiful. It's like, I'm pretty certain that's not in the book. That's something that they did just do for the movie, and that's how the movie ends.
Yeah.
And it was like, thank you, Armando, for putting that in.
Yeah, I needed that.
Yeah,
I needed to see that because this film, I think it should be resonating with a lot of people right now.
That was the important thing. Is there was so much catharsis, there was so much emotional relevance. In this movie, not just comedy, and it was funny. I don't know if we've harped on enough about how funny it just was.
It was hilarious, and just a fantastic film. What would you give it, you reckon?
Well, the problem is, it's almost, I'm still in the afterglow of and it was such an emotional roller coaster. I think there are, as you pointed out, there are pacing issues near the start. Yeah. And I don't think they could have been helped with the story that it was trying to tell. So
not without extending the runtime a little bit longer.
No, not at all. And I think I have, from what I recall, in my youth, I saw an animated version that did have those problems. The pacing was even worse in that than it was in this one. So
yeah. And overall, that was pretty terrible, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. But I still remember being mildly entertained by the story. Also, his job is so boring, and it can be like, as a proctor, I remember that was like some of the legalities of adult life in that were portrayed less interesting than they were in this version. So
the only thing I know about Proctor is John Proctor.
So nothing.
Just a character in a book that we had to study for year 10.
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think what I'm going to do is, like, in terms of how it's impacted me, in terms of how well it told its own story, which I always think is one of the most important things, I have to give that, like, that part, it's like a 9 or 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
As a movie, it's probably just an 8 out of 10. But that's still, like, in hindsight, an 8 out of 10 movie is nothing to complain about.
No. I think for me, for how it impacted me, I would give it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
For film, like filmmaking, film wise, as a movie, I would give it probably a 7, maybe 7.5.
Okay.
75.
Yeah, that's basically, I think that's where Metacritic had it. So
yeah. Because I don't feel like I'm ever going to need to watch it again anytime soon. It's not a film that I will rush back to go. See,
I wouldn't mind going and seeing it again, but with different people's, like, to see their reactions. I think that's what I gained from it. Yeah. But yeah, I can. It's like,
but I would like to have some friends watch it. Like, I think everyone should at least sit down and watch half of the film.
Yeah. Oh, another thing that stood out to me about this movie, and it wasn't because of the movie itself, a little bit. It was because we saw the trailer for Mulan beforehand.
Yeah.
And the colors in it are rather gaudy. in Mulan, and the colors in David Copperfield could be gaudy, but they're not. It all suits the environment and the world in which it's building.
But you also got to remember, Mulan is a kitsch movie. Like it's one thing I've noticed: the difference between films that are marketed towards children and films that are marketed to a more adult audience is the children's films are often way more colorful.
Yes.
Even live action ones, way more colorful for whatever reason. It's a weird thing that they think this will make it more. This will make the children appreciate it more if it's colorful.
One thing I didn't note as well is like with watching Mulan is like we're gonna when it comes out we're gonna compare it to Breadwinner and the original Disney Mulan because I think obviously one of them's an obvious comparison, but having watched Breadwinner, I think it may have done what Mulan might want to do better.
Yeah. Well, we talked about Breadwinner already on the last podcast about how it tells its own story, but it tells a very unique perspective on gender issues in that region of the world. The story of Mulan tells a similar story with gender roles and stuff like that I feel like the original handled quite well, but I'm having my doubts the more I see of this live action film.
Yeah. Also, you've watched the Chinese Mulan?
I have not.
Okay, you need to find and watch the Chinese Mulan because it does a different take again on it. Yeah. It's also really well done though. And I think because it's more of a martial arts movie as well in terms of how it's shot. Not a martial artsy. It's more like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Not even to that extent though. It's more the battle scenes. But the comparison, I think, with the battle scenes from that and this one will be bigger as well. So lots to compare. So Mulan has quite the target on its back, you could say.
Yeah. They might have bitten off a bit more than they can actually chew.
And I think they may find they might have rushed into all these live actions a bit quicker than they should have.
Yeah. And I've been saying that since they started doing the live action movies. I don't like any of them. There isn't one, maybe Jungle Book. Jungle Book is the best by far. Yeah. But that's just a good film in general. But a lot of the live action films that Disney have produced recently have not been good.
No.
Have been, they've, like we were saying before, they've just been a ploy to market, get more money. Which is fine, but that's
the best thing about most of them has been the fact that they've brought back the originals. I mean, that was the best thing about Dumbo. Is like, I went back and rewatched the original. It's a weird movie. It's so good though. And Aladdin was the same. It was like Aladdin was okay, but the animated one's better. And going back and watching that was good. Yeah, I don't want to think about the animated live action. I mean, Lion King because
no, that was terrible.
It was terrible.
That was so bad.
We'll have to do our worst odds as well at some point of these.
Yeah, well, we're nearing the end of the year. Well, not nearing the end of the year, but we're halfway through the year now. Yeah. And I think the closer to the end of the year we get, we're gonna have to do our top and our bottom lists for the best of and the worst of. Yeah. It's not gonna get pretty. Nope. It's gonna be pretty bad.
If something comes out that's worse than Godzilla 2, I'll be surprised.
For this year, we see Godzilla 2
last year.
It was last year. Well, I think Bloodshot is the worst film of this year for us so far. Yeah. I can't think of anything else that really.
Is Artemis? I haven't actually watched Artemis Fowl yet.
Oh no, yeah, sorry, I haven't finished Artemis Fowl.
Oh, you haven't finished it?
I tried 3 times.
Oh dear.
How far did you get through? Did you see the Centaur? No, you haven't seen it?
I was going to read the book, and I have read the book. And it's like, okay, I think just from the trailers, I know they screwed this and this up, and these things are essential. So,
dude, they have a centaur who should be doing an advertisement for L'Oreal. Honest to God, there are some things there that I'm like, why? Why would you do this? It doesn't make any sense. There's no even from a marketing perspective, it says no, don't do this. Yeah. I don't know who was producing this thing, but and the amount of good actors that they conned into being in this as well. Colin Farrell, Judi Dench. Yeah. Why are they here? Nobody knows.
Oh, Colin Farrell's character shouldn't be in it. That so just a spoiler alert. One of the main emotional points in the first book is that his mother has got major mental issues due to his father disappearing. That's one of the biggest issues in the first one, and I'm guessing from what I've seen, it's not in the first one at all.
His mother isn't even there.
Yeah.
There is no mum.
Mhm.
I don't know where she is, but she's not in the movie. They don't even. If they bring her up, it must be very small in like a tiny throwaway line because I don't remember there even being a mention of him having a mum.
Also, so Artemis Fowl is an adult in a kid's body, except when he's interacting with his mum. That's why the mum's so important to the story.
What do you mean an adult in a kid's body?
Oh, he's a super genius, and he doesn't connect to his emotions, but he's super smart, so he can out-talk anyone he's with.
Yeah, we get a glimpse of that, but it feels like I'm 7 and I'm more intelligent.
Yeah, that's what I've got from the trailer, and that's not what Artemis Fowl is like at all.
Yeah, he's a little fucking shit. I hated him as soon as I saw him on screen. Yeah. And I feel really bad for the actor in it because he does not do a good job. And that's not entirely his fault.
No, I'm sure it's not.
If you're casting, that's your job to get the casting right.
Yep.
If you are directing, it's your job to get a good performance out of your cast. End of story. You cannot rely on your cast to solely bring. I mean, you can, like on someone like Anthony Hopkins or Colin Farrell in this case, where you can rely on those actors to bring about the best performance they've ever done because they're pros and they just do it straight away off the bat.
I think I mentioned it earlier, but I'll say it again. The directing in David Copperfield is actually excellent.
Yes.
There are, as we mentioned, there's pacing issues at the start, but there are a lot of camera shots and widescreens that the selection of just was perfect and added to the story. So credit to Armando.
Yes, yeah, fantastic. And I'm not if Kenneth Branagh is listening, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
If you want to hire Jordan for a movie,
I'll do a better job. No, I won't.
He will gladly work with you, is what I was going to say.
No, but like I feel like there are a lot of things that can be improved if there was you had the place to improve them. But it could also come down to producers being over, because Thor 1 was made in the time where the Disney production studios were heavily watching Marvel to make sure that they did everything their way. Then you also had the Murder on the Orient Express, which was also heavily produced by Paramount. I want to say Paramount. Yeah. I think it's Paramount.
It was definitely Branagh's brainchild, though.
Well, it's Agatha Christie's brainchild, but
no, but to do it again was...
to do it again. Which is fair. It's a fantastic story. And, a lot of his films have been... And again, Artemis Fowl was an overproduced... schlocky, rushed thing that was... it definitely felt like it was rushed through production as fast as possible. Yep.
It wasn't a happy accident like Sonic was.
If he goes back to theater, I will be the first in line to see a film that he makes based on a theatrical production.
I watched Marshall on Netflix this week.
Marshall.
2017 movie starring Black Panther. David Oyelowo?
No,
it's the other one.
Chadwick Boseman.
That's it, Boseman. See, that's my coming out my mouth.
Racist.
David Oyelowo is British and Chadwick Boseman's American, so...
Yeah. So how'd you get them mixed up, Scotty?
Names. They're both interesting names. Yeah. I didn't say Muhammad Ali, so
that's true. Yeah. That's true. So that's one for you.
You're racist for thinking I'm racist. No,
we are part of the problem.
Yes,
we are 100% part of the problem.
I also said Boseman with a question mark at the end, as I'm sure you noticed. So I knew I was wrong.
How was that?
So it's pretty good. John. It's got Dan Stevens as a bad lawyer.
I love Dan Stevens. He's fantastic.
Yeah, he doesn't have much to do, but with little he's got, he's pretty good.
Speaking of which, Dan Stevens is in the new Will Ferrell flick, which also stars Rachel McAdams.
Oh, he's hilarious. He's playing the Russian entry in the Eurovision.
No, it's not Rachel McAdams.
It is.
Is it? Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Dan Stevens is playing the Russian entrance.
And he's a villain in it. And it's fantastic.
So funny.
I want to see it. I haven't seen any of it yet.
I've seen the first half.
Maybe we'll watch that after this.
I may have to go. But otherwise... But yes, we will watch it this week. Okay, so next week, we are doing a podcast next week. And we will be doing... we'll talk about the Eurovision song. It's the story of Starfire or something.
The Starfire something.
Something like that.
Fire Saga.
Fire Saga, yes.
Fire Saga, yes. Yeah. The story of Fire Saga. That's what it's called.
Yeah. Pierce Brosnan plays his dad as well. Yeah. Yes, I won't want to spoil it, but there's some good stuff there. that was actually I think my favorite part of the movie that I'd seen so far, because I'm only even halfway through. That's the problem with Netflix. You stop halfway through a movie. But yeah, I did see all of Marshall, and it's not the best movie. It's better than the last Netflix movie I watched in terms of that style, which was the Catcher as a Spy. Didn't like that movie at all. Sorry, Paul Rudd.
Yeah. Well, you can't win them all.
No.
You can't do it all. Also, Catcher in the Rye reference. Like, what? We talked about this already. It's not worth talking about again.
No. Been there, done that.
Yes.
Did you watch anything else this week, movie-wise?
No. But we were going to watch at some point in the future.
Oh, we're going to do a small schmacker special. A Joel Schumacher special.
A Joel Schumacher special.
We went schmackos for Joel Schumacher.
So, as some of you might know, Joel Schumacher, who is a director who has a very interesting and sorted and eclectic career, recently passed away. Not from coronavirus, I don't think.
I don't know.
I think it was like old age or something, because he was fairly old. But he was the one that is solely responsible for bat nips.
Yeah.
Hashtag bat nips.
Hashtag Schumacher.
And the what is it called? The bat card? The
the bat card.
The bat credit card. Oh my god. I'm having flashbacks to that.
Freeze puns. Lots of freeze puns. Actually, technically, it's not his fault, because that was actually straight out of the original 1970s Batman series, Adam West series.
Yeah.
But still, yes.
It's very much like the Adam West series.
It is.
But almost like a parody without realizing it.
Yeah.
So we are planning on watching those two films, the Batman ones.
And we might mention other Schumacher films as well, the good and the bad.
The good and the bad, because he has done some good films.
Yes.
Unfortunately, he is remembered for his worst stuff, but he shouldn't be, because he's done some good stuff.
Yeah. We'd like to do a special on him. So
yeah,
that's our plan. Next couple of podcasts, there'll be a Schumacher special, and we'll be discussing Artemis Fowl at some point. Well, until then, I've been Scotty.
Yes, he has.
And I would like to ask a trivia question to Jordan.
Oh, okay. What is it?
What's your name?
You already said it.
I did.
Yeah, you did.
And that's all we need to know. So see you guys.
Bye.